GCSE Maths. Welcome. Are you excited for a fun learning session? Make sure you have your book and a pen before we start. Today you are going to learn about rounding. Rounding. Numbers can be rounded to the nearest whole number, 10, 100, 1000 and more. Numbers can be rounded to make them easier to work with. If number has a decimal that is less 0.5, it is rounded down to the number before the decimal. For example, 1.3 becomes 123.01 becomes 23,100.49999 becomes 100. If number has a decimal that is more than 0.5 or 0.5, it is rounded up to the next whole number. For example, 1.7 becomes 237.5 becomes 3810.6 becomes 110.67 becomes 1. If the number has a 5 or more in the unit column, it is rounded up to the next 10. For example, 47 becomes 5019 becomes 20,296 becomes 300. If the number has a number less than 5 in the units column, it is rounded down. This means changing the unit to a 0 while keeping the 10 column the same. For example, 23 becomes 20,211 becomes 210. If the number has a number less than 25, it is rounded down to the 100. If it is 25 or more, it is rounded up to the next 50. If it is less than 75, it is rounded down to the 50, and if the number it is 75 or more, it is rounded up to the next 100. Examples of rounding to the nearest: 5023 becomes 025 becomes 5074 becomes 5075 becomes 100. If the number has a number less than 50 in the tens column, it is rounded down. For example, 23 becomes 0149 becomes 100, 1001 becomes 1000. If the number has a number more than 50 in the tens column, it is rounded up. For example, 51 becomes 100,260 becomes 300, 10051 becomes 10,100. If the number has a number more than or equal to 500, it is rounded up. If it less than 500, it is rounded down. For example, 510 becomes 1,260 becomes 10,051 becomes 10000, 10634 becomes 11,000. Sometimes we need to round to a different number of decimal places. To do this, find the number of decimal places you are being asked to round to, then look at the next decimal. If this is 5 or the decimal is rounded up. If it is 4 or less, the number is left. For example, round to 4 decimal places: 234.6667901. Step 1 is to look at the number that is 5 places past the decimal point. 234.6667901. The fifth number is 9. Step 2, as the number is bigger than 5, the 7 is rounded up to the next number. This rounds the number to 234.6668. If the decimal is a 9, this changes more than one number. For example, when rounding 3.299 to 2 decimal places, the number in the third decimal place is a 9. This rounds the next number. As this is also a 9, it will round to a 10 and will change the next number with it. This becomes 3.30. A significant figure is the first number that is not a 0. After that first number, any following zeros are significant. For instance, in 0.000001, the 1 is the first significant figure. However, 210, the 0 is significant as it follows a number that is not 0. The highest common factor of a list on numbers in the largest number that is a factor of all the numbers in the list. This means the largest number that will divide into all of the numbers without leaving a remainder. If asked to round to the nearest significant figure, the first task is to find the number of significant figures. Round 2,309,812 to 3 significant figures is the first number is a 2. We count from there. Fill in the first 3 numbers 230, then fill in the remaining spaces with zeros. This gives 2,300,000. If there is a decimal that extends beyond the last significant figure, you do not have to fill in the spaces with zeros. 2.345863 round to 3 significant figures. First find 4 figures. As the first number is not a 0, we can start with the 2. 2.345 as the fourth number is a 5, we round the previous number up. 2.35.